Check with the time now, exactly 4 minutes past 8. This is the Breakfast Show on Skyy 93.5 FM, and Phillip Nyakpo is all set with the major news bulletin for this morning. Good morning, Phillip.
Good morning, Bob. This is the Skyy Power News. The death toll from yesterday's violent clashes between supporters of Accra Hearts of Folk and Kotoko has risen to 125. The major hospitals in Accra are inundated with dead bodies and several hundreds of injured people. Meanwhile, President John Kufuor has called an emergency cabinet meeting this morning to discuss the tragedy. Ms. Elizabeth Ohene, the president's spokesperson, who was at the 37 military hospital yesterday, announced this while speaking to news reporters.
For the moment, I was just going to make a statement about what the president said. You know, he's been here. He's seen it for himself, the sheer devastation. He's seen the injured, he's seen the dead, and he would like particularly to pay tribute to the doctors and the nurses and the paramedics for the work they've done tonight. They've excelled themselves, and he would like to express his gratitude and that of the whole nation to them. And he is, of course, calling an emergency cabinet meeting for tomorrow morning for the government to meet as a group and announce what he intends to do about this tragic situation.
That was Elizabeth Ohene. Now, Dogbe, a journalist who was at the Accra Stadium, and now who is on the line live to Accra. Good morning, Dogbe.
Good morning, Philip.
Yes, you were at the Accra Stadium. Tell us, what happened?
Well, as has been recounted over and over again, the match itself proceeded quite smoothly until about 5 minutes to the end of the game, when some fans at the Accra International Conference Center and of the third properly called that Decoca stand started destroying the plastic seats there and throwing them into the inner perimeter. The seats were accompanied by bottles were also being thrown into the inner perimeter, and some police personnel on duty in trying to curtail the situation fired 5 volleys of tear gas into the stands. That resulted in a stampede as many of the spectators were trying desperately to run away from the tear gas, and considering the narrow nature of the entrance from the stands to the staircase downstairs, you could lead them to the open gates. Hello?
Yes, I can read you, Stan.
Yeah, there was a stampede, and that resulted in many people falling over each other. Many people also got stuck at the gates, and from information that we got once we got to the stadium, most of the people who died even died at the entrance because they were just sitting, there was no air, and they started suffocating. As a result, most of the people also fell unconscious from the tear gas thing. The situation was quite horrible. By the time we got into the stand, together with my colleague Jan Pofuanka and the Minister for Presidential Affairs, Nico Vichevillante, and Takoradi, it was quite a humbling experience for us, seeing human beings just lying prostrate, some unconscious, some injured, and some completely dead.
Do I take it, Stan, that you were at some of the hospitals? Which hospitals and what did you see?
I was at the Ridge Hospital and in the Casualty military hospital, where the largest number of people were brought in there. Senator must indicate here that for the first time, the number of dead bodies brought to the Casualty military hospital outnumbered the live human beings. Those who were injured, more and more people were being brought in, and at a point in time, we got really confused. Most of us there were humbled by what we were seeing. Taxi cabs, police jeeps, private cars were bringing more and more bodies in. But I might say that the medical staff at the Casualty military hospital did handle the situation quite
And Stan, has any of the 125 victims been identified yet?
As of yesterday, at about 10 o'clock, 4 of the 13 who were confirmed dead at the Rich Hospital were picked up by their colleagues. They were Muslims, and Muslims usually bury their dead quite early, so they were identified and picked up. Apart from them, we've not had any confirmed report as yet about any of them being confirmed. However, the police authorities this morning are making frantic efforts to publish a list of injured persons so that relatives can go in there. That the police hospital is ready. About 50 people are injured at the police hospital. At the Sub-Center Military Hospital, about 53 people are confirmed injured, and the hospital are making frantic efforts to get a list published. And when the list is published, within a listeners, usually those in Kumasi and Takoradi, host friends and relatives travel to Accra for this match for them to know the state of their relatives.
Any news, Stan, about the footballers themselves?
Well, the footballers themselves are safe and sound. We spoke to the chief executive of Accra, and he told us that his boys are safe and sound. Some did fast to its end, and they are all shattered by what happened. I mean, the match had ended quite peacefully, and little did many of the people at the stadium know that this was what was going on. Interestingly, Phillip, most people left the stadium without knowing that there was a disaster, because that particular part of the stand is quite an isolated part, and once other people have left, there's left with quite a few people there, and the players are okay now. They are quite subdued. They are humbled by what has happened, and they are all praying that the situation never reoccurs.
And you know, Stan, this part of the country, western and central regions, most people here are just waking up to the news of this tragedy. What is the situation like in Accra? What are ordinary people saying about this?
Well, ordinary people are also as confused as we are. It is difficult now to apportion blame. The fans here did something wrong by destroying the plastic strips. Questions that have been asked that most people in the metropolis, whether the police response by firing tear gas into the car was also right, especially when tear gas is fired to disperse crowd. And there is a case where the main gates to the stadium have been locked, so you fire tear gas, and people have nowhere else to pass. The crowd that was supposed to disperse have nowhere else to pass, and they were all scrambling, looking for space, looking for air to breathe, because you know when tear gas is fired into you, the pepper effect is very, very strong. Most people at the moment are very quiet. Accra is very quiet at the moment. People are trying to find out what exactly happened. Over 100 people dead. It's not a small number. It doesn't happen at other places. We had 17 cases, and we were complaining. But 100 is something that people are working this morning and trying to fathom what exactly might have gone on.
And Stan, we also heard reports that the hospitals were inundated, and this has raised concerns about the fact that the country may not be prepared for tragedies like this. As someone who has been on the ground, what's your observation on that?
Well, Phillip, let me take your last question first. Yes, the country has never been prepared for emergency situations such as this. Apart from the military, none of our institutions, and indeed the individuals, the citizens themselves, are quite abreast with how to handle emergency situations. If you've ever been to the Accra Sports Stadium or the Kumasi Sports Stadium where some of these riotous situations occur, you would realize that the police and other first aid people there do not have any clue about how to handle such situations, except for some few occasions we've seen the military display expertise in these areas. What happened at Accra Sports Stadium yesterday? There was nobody there to even tell the people pass here or do not pass here. There was no emergency exits. There was nothing that the people could do, and they had no advice from nowhere else. About the people inundating the hospital, this morning many more people are thronging the hospitals. My colleagues at the hospital told me that many more people are coming in. Busloads are coming in from Kumasi to check on their relatives who traveled to Accra yesterday for this big game. And at the Southern Military Hospital, the authorities have been able to push the crowd to one particular side, and they say that in about 5-10 minutes, the list of those injured will be published for those people to know who and who is injured. And later on, a very, very well-rehearsed system is going to be used to ensure that people move into the morgue to attempt to identify relatives dead, if any.
And Stan, just before you go, what are you expecting for the next few hours? Because this story remains tragic throughout perhaps this weekend, this month, and the rest of the year.
Yeah, this story really remains tragic. For the first time, Ghana is being featured on BBC World Service, CNN World Service as first stories, top stories, and it is quite tragic. What you do expect, however, is that after the cabinet meeting at about 9 o'clock this morning. We'll know what government situation is going to be, whether we're going to have a mass burial, whether the body is going to be released to the families to bury individually, whether we're going to have any compensation for the families of the victims, etc. The committee of inquiry into yesterday's incident, so that we find out exactly what went wrong, and in order that we look for preventive measures, ensure that it doesn't happen again. We do not need to be caught down again by some of those disasters. The hospital authority are also holding a press conference in about an hour from now, where they're also going to brief the public, the media, and the public on what the situation is currently at the hospitals. And as it is, we are going to continue to follow up this story, try to find out what exactly went wrong in order to look for preventive measures.
All right, thank you very much. Stan Dogbe there, reporting live from Accra. Well, we take the rest of the news now. Skyy Power News. The Deputy Minister for Media Relations, Kwabena Japan, has been speaking about his experience at the stadium, which we recorded earlier.
The lady said the fans were routing. I don't believe they were routing. They were not routing. A few unruly fans.